Hello, everyone. Hello, WIN family. Welcome to WIN Forum 2020. It's a very emotional moment for me. It's a very intense moment because it's the very last talk of this week. We have been together with WIN Forum 2020 for a whole week. And today is the last one, is the last talk. And I'm very, very excited to have such great hosts with me. We've had a whole week to discuss diversity, inclusion, innovation. And I really wanted to finish this week with a very important topic. And I want to show you, before introducing my panelists, I wanted to show you why I think it's so important. This is what I wanted to show you here. Do you see my screen? That's on. Yes, we have spoken about everything that the current crisis are changing, how it is impacting us as citizens, as leaders, or as companies. But COVID is one thing. There are many other things that are happening, particularly this week. But above all this is the climate change, and it's a huge wave. And I really wanted to talk about this with you, because it's impacting the way we work, the way we interact with each other, the way we consume. And to discuss this, I really wanted to have you, all the smiling faces that I see on my screen around me, to discuss it. Young people and Miranda Massey. Hi, Miranda. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Hi, you're the director of the Climate Museum. We're going to know more about it. And I'm here with Zinab, Gaspar, and Hillary. Hello, everyone. How are you?
Good.
Hi. Good. So, yes, I want, first of all, maybe each one of you can introduce yourself, you know, who you are, what you like, and then Miranda will do the same. And she will explain us what she does. And we're going to have a conversation. I really want to understand how you feel about all these challenges that we all are facing. Okay, so maybe Gaspar, we can start with you.
Okay. So my name is Jasper. I lived in New York since 7 years now. I go to school at Lafayette Academy. Some passions that I like to do. I like to play music. My instrument is piano. I like sports, and I also like theater, and yeah, and I'm 12 years old. I'm turning 13 in about 4 days.
Wow.
And yeah, and I'm really happy to be here with you guys and talk about this super important topic. So yeah.
Thank you, Gaspar. Thank you. Welcome, Zinab.
Hi, I'm Zainab. I'm from France, but I moved to America, and I've been living here for the last 6 years. I'm 12 years old, and I'm turning 13 on the 13th of June. I really like sports. I play volleyball for the Lafayette Academy girls team, and I'm really passionate about the arts. I'm also in a theater program, and I'm also in chorus.
Wow, welcome, Zinab. Thank you. Hi, Hillary.
Hi, I'm Hillary. I moved to America when I was 7 years old because I thought that there would be many opportunities here and I would make a lot of friends. I am.
How old are you, Hillary?
I am 14 years old. When I first came here, I didn't speak English. The only language I really knew was French. So I was put back in a different grade, so I would start over and learn everything again. I play the bass. I take music lessons. I do like theater. I like doing a lot of things. I was on the girls volleyball team at Lafayette Academy. Yeah.
That's great. I'm really impressed by your level of English. I'll never be able to speak that good. Well, welcome to the three of you. Miranda, hi.
Hi, and Catherine, thank you so much for ending your important conference in a with a conversation with young people. It's a real honor, Zainab and Hillary and Gaspar, to be co-panelist with you three. You're so accomplished and so conscious and so committed. I know part of that from our earlier discussions, and the listeners will be learning it very soon, the middle part of that, the consciousness. It's maybe the most precious resource that we on earth now have, is the awareness and commitment of young people like you guys. So it's a real honor to be here. My name is Miranda Massey, and I founded and now direct the Climate Museum, which is dedicated to inspiring action on the climate crisis, which is indeed, as that schematic drawing of waves suggested, the largest crisis that we now face as a civilization and a species. The crisis of equality and of inequality that runs through our society and that has so come to dominate the news in the last 10 days is a crisis that runs through the coronavirus crisis, the upcoming economic downturn, and then of course the climate crisis. And that's what drew me into this work. I was originally a racial justice and civil rights trial attorney. And I came to realize that climate change is the biggest threat to human equality that we have and that we could imagine having. It is one of our goals to elevate the voices of young people. So I want to finish by just saying how grateful I am to be part of this important forum with these three important young people. So thank you.
Thank you. So Miranda, how did you start doing your climate museum, and what's the end game of all this?
Yeah. Well, the museum came about. I was working on issues as an attorney, on issues at the intersection of social and racial justice on the one hand, and environmental law and policy on the other. That's a terrain that's called environmental justice for people who don't know. And like a lot of people, and maybe like some people who are listening and watching right now, I kept thinking about the climate crisis and worrying about it and pushing that down because I wasn't ready to cope with the scale and the magnitude of the threat. And for me, the turnaround moment happened during, in the aftermath of Superstorm Sandy. That storm, that experience of living—
When was the storm again, Miranda?
2012, thank you. It was in 2012. And living through that made me realize, no, I have to redirect my energies toward the climate crisis. There's no pushing it down anymore. I've got to grapple with this. And almost immediately, the notion for a climate museum popped into my head. It was really like somebody else deposited a quarter in a piggy bank. Didn't feel like my idea, still kind of doesn't. And I've been working on it ever since. Our goal is to inspire civic, outward-facing public action that can help address the climate crisis. And the key thing for us is your action against climate change doesn't feel significant if it's just you. You have to feel like you're part of a community of action, like the community of action that this discussion today can help build in order for what you do to feel like it matters, because we all know rationally this problem is enormous. So you have to feel like you're not acting alone. And our central goal, if I had to boil it down to one thing, is to make it clear to people that they are part of a community of action and that what they do, what they say, what they think matters.
Mm. So is that something, I'm turning to you, Gaspar, Hillary, and Zainab. What's the topic of climate change? How do you talk about this at school? What is your reaction and your vision on all this? Maybe Gaspar, we start with you.
So, I mean, at school, we talk a lot about these things. Certainly when we have sometimes class meetings with some teachers and things like that. Most importantly, in science class, when we're in class, we're learning about multiple things, which is very interesting. But sometimes we take topics from probably like from other units of the class and talk about climate change, and how like every single day we learn things that we just didn't actually want to learn it, but learning it. So yeah, I mean, climate change is one of the main topics
Mhm,
of this world right now,
mhm.
and I think talk about it because we need some voices to see and how people can understand and how people can make changes while talking about this problem. So
Do you discuss it with your parents too? Do you discuss it at home?
yeah. My parents are super strict with some plastics and things like that. And sometimes we have these discussions about how the environment and how it's going to change because of this virus and how we're living it right now and how the community is and how we are going to work, how we're going to spend money is totally going to change because of this virus and how people are going to understand that this world is going to change and not going to be the same.
It's true. I agree.
Yeah.
Hillary, do you feel the same? Do you also speak about this at school? Uh,
Um, I remember a while back I was interested in learning more about climate change and learning more of how I could I wanted to learn how I could help the earth, how I can make climate change not become more than it's already is. And so I joined this science club, and in that science club we learned that um climate change isn't a one-sided thing. It's not that you think you can change the world just by thinking you can change it. You need people, as you said, Catherine, that we need people to help you so you can work and stop climate change from escalating. Um, and I totally agree with that. I fear that if we don't act up now, it's going to escalate to a point where everything it gets worse than it already is. So what I think this pandemic has brought us is the time to stay home and think about what we should do and what we could do to bring down the littering, um, plastic usage. We could think about how we can like just make the world a better place.
mhm. I agree. Thank you, Hillary. And you, Zina, what is your vision of all this?
While we do learn about climate change in school, it's always the very fundamental idea of climate change, the surface, if you will. I remember this picture that goes trending about every single year with a different topic. It's the iceberg, and when you look below the water, there's even more. So I believe that while they're talking about the bigger issues, they aren't looking deeper into what's leading up to why we're littering. Is it mass consumerism and stuff like that? I feel like we should start at the root is our kids. We should be teaching them more about the different ways that we could be hurting our planet instead of going straight to you're hurting the planet because you're littering, which you are, but why do people feel like they're littering? Why shouldn't they be doing that is what I think.
Wow, thank you. I don't know you, Miranda, but I'm really impressed by the quality of reflection that, Gaspar, Hillary, and Zina have, and how mature they are. I don't remember when I was their age being so concerned and conscious about all this.
Definitely not. I think that what I've found in our work at the Climate Museum with people your guys' age is that the crises that we're facing, the crisis of inequality, the climate crisis, now the COVID crisis is maybe in a slightly different category, but I think it's reasonable to make a connection. It has created the generation that's capable of rising to the challenges that it presents. It's one of those remarkable moments in history where what we face requires a new level of thoughtfulness, a new level of connectedness. Zainab, I remember last week or the week before when we first met, you're talking about how it had to be about more than just me. It now has to be about us. as a whole people, as a whole society. And that's a mind frame that I think is extraordinarily common among young people these days, much more common than it was in our generation. And that is the hope for the future. That's how we will make progress.
I agree. Maybe I could ask to every one of you, how do you, so you're right, Miranda, it's a matter of us, but it starts with I mean, everyone has to change behavior, and it's probably the most difficult thing to do. I remember one of your conferences where you said we are animals of habits, and
Yeah.
the most difficult thing in life is to change one habit. And I would like to ask you, Zeenab, Hilary, and Gaspar, starting maybe with you, Zeenab, what have you changed? Have you changed something in the way you behave, or just to protect the planet more? What do you do personally?
Well, when you live in a family that doesn't really, I wouldn't want to call them ignorant, but that doesn't really think that it's an important issue, it's usually hard to help your planet. But I do my part. I'll occasionally sort the plastics and the glass and the because my family, they don't recycle, which I don't think is a really good idea. So I take it upon myself to sort out the single-use plastic and the different bottles and everything, and occasionally I just clean up after them because it's just the right thing to do.
Wow. Thank you for that. And what do you do, Hilary? What are the things you want to share that you particularly do to help this?
When we talk about climate change, some people, they're not really committed, so they just say something to get it over, like, oh, I stopped littering, but like, what would you do to stop the littering? So my family, we do our part one at a time, even though some days, like my brothers, they don't think about what they're doing, and then they just do it without any sort of guilt or anything. They don't even think about whether they're harming the planet or anything. But I get it, like, they're 4 and 5 years old, and I'm trying my part to teach them what if they were to litter, what it would do to the planet. And what I do is that since we're not like allowed to like use plastic bags anymore, I'm trying to find all the plastic bags in that house. I'm trying to sort them out. There's this thing that when you put plastic bags inside, it gives money. So if we collect a lot of plastic bags, and my family is helping too, we put it in this machine that it drops money, and that money is given to charity, in which they help places like Africa and help that place grow. And I just want to influence people to do their part too.
Wow, congratulations for that. Thank you. And you, Gaspar, what do you do?
So my mom used to work for a foundation called the Anne Fontaine Foundation, and this foundation contains also a lot of climate things. So my mom would plant trees and things like that. And since the day my mom got this work, our life started to change because of what she's learning. And so me and my parents, we recycle a lot, and we sort out bottles and things that we keep, like glass bottles we do keep when we finish something like juice or things like that, and we keep them for utility. For example, my dad makes applesauce, and sometimes he puts some juice inside.
And
Just
they're very good.
yeah,
I tell you.
and yeah, and I mean, we've been consuming less energy from our house. Like sometimes I would let the light stay for like a couple hours, and then my parents would like say for me like for 5 minutes that it's not good to let the light, and you have to consume less energy for the planet.
That's
And we also the compost here. I don't know why, but in our neighborhood it stopped. I think probably, I don't know, in other neighborhoods, but I know that they used to collect compost, but now they don't. And so now what we do the compost is we have like a little garden in front of our house, which is a city garden. They plant vegetables and things like that, plants, and we give our compost to these people, and that way they can plant things like fruits or vegetables or things like that. So yeah.
I like it because, you know, when I listen to you, I understand that this climate change topic is really top of your mind. And whether you come from a family where it's important or a family where people not particularly care, the three of you, you really have a conscience on this. And I believe your generation is like this. Don't you think, Miranda?
Absolutely. I think it's incredibly impressive in both cases. In the case where you have a family that's already working to max out ecological practices and you're adding to that and contributing, and then to be swimming against the current in your own household is an unbelievable act of heroism and remarkable. That is really difficult and so important, because one of the most important things that you can do, one of the most important actions you can take, is to speak feelingly to the people in your life who don't understand that we face a climate crisis, and to let them know, to start. You don't have to be a science expert to talk about the climate crisis. You just have to start with what you think and what you feel. And it is helpful to know that all of the peer-reviewed scientific articles published last year in 2019 on the subject of climate change determined that it's very serious and caused by humans, and all the things that you guys already know. Just so you know, there's not a scientific debate, in case anybody ever tries to raise that with you. But you don't have to be a scientist. You just have to know that you care about your future and that you deserve a livable future, and that you're going to be fighting for that and arguing for that. That's where it starts. The one thing I would urge you to add into this remarkable set of commitments is thinking about how to make the action social, so that you're advancing system-wide climate solutions, because it's really important to know that our individual actions add up. But right now, the level of carbon pollution in the atmosphere, the last time it was this high, human beings didn't even exist. The closest thing to a human was a great ape, an ancient great ape, several million years ago. So we also need to change from a fossil fuel economy to a clean energy economy. And Gasper, to your points about energy efficiency, that's really important as well. To use less energy is important, but where our energy comes from is going to be one of the next major important changes for humanity.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you know, when I believe that what some of the questions that we have regarding climate change, and that you particularly have, is what initiative can I take beyond what I do on a daily basis that have a bigger impact? Is there, what have you seen, Miranda? What do you advise us? Or maybe you guys have ideas, but what initiative to stop the global warming? We have a responsibility, but if we make it more collective, it might have a bigger impact.
I love that question, and I want to hear what you three have to say. I would say the three top, or I'll give you 4 top actions from my perspective. The first is to call your political representatives, and if you're a naturalized U.S. citizen, that's easily enough done. If you're not, call the representatives in the U.S. for the place where you live, and also call your representatives back home. Make everybody.
How do you address them? Sorry, Miranda, sorry to interrupt. How do you connect with them?
You can, if you go to, I can put into the chat a website, or have you circulate to attendees a website that allows you to identify your representative and to find her or his phone number. And one of the things that people don't know is that usually it's an intern or a very junior staff member who will answer your call. That person, even if you're leaving a voicemail, in fact, it is required that your message be recorded and that what you're asking for be recorded. That is an absolutely standard requirement in every political office. And the reason for that, if you stop and think about it, it's very logical, is that your political representative knows for every person who takes the time, takes the 5 to 7 minutes to make that call, there are hundreds of people who have the same opinions who aren't making the call. So your calls are recorded and they matter. And there's a very easy website, which again, we can circulate. A second thing to do, you guys are already doing, it's talk to the people around you who trust you and believe in you. That is a huge factor. And it's a huge way we can take steps to change our whole civic culture. You guys are already doing that, but to those who are watching us from home, that's an incredibly important thing to do. A third thing that we really strongly urge people to do is figure out what your traction is in the world. Maybe you're an employer, maybe you're a trusted colleague or employee, and try to get the institutions that you're a part of. Maybe it's your religious institutions, your workplaces. Try to get them to take a stand on climate change. That's a way of multiplying your power and making it feel more collective. So you three all go to the same school. Maybe next year you can get your principal to issue a statement about climate change or to make a commitment about reducing the school's carbon footprint. But think about the institutions where you have persuasive power, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And then the final thing, as a bonus action, because the financing of the fossil fuel industry is such a huge issue, call your bank and urge them forcefully but respectfully to stop funding fossil fuels and to fund clean energy projects instead. That will be more profitable for them in the long term and definitely a safer and cleaner life for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for those very concrete ideas, and it's really concrete. What do you think, Guy, about this? Do you feel that you have this responsibility to do it in spite of your young age? Do you feel like you can do it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's so great to hear.
I wanted to add on to Miranda because I absolutely believe that it's important to be vocal. I myself think that I am very vocal. I'm actually one of the founders of the Lafayette Academy Student Council, because I do feel important that you give everyone a voice, especially if they're included in the community and are important. And I also love to post on my Instagram a lot about just different ideas that need to be brought to the public and that need to be discussed, because the more you push away this idea that's so important, not even an idea, fact that it's so important that we need to save the planet, the more it becomes a bigger cause. So I feel it's absolutely important to just speak out and say something.
I like to add on to Zainab and at the same time Miranda. So for me, the big message that Miranda is trying to tell us is to send a message, because we need to send a message. First, it starts by ourselves to make a change, but then try to send this message to our friends and families and other people that we know. That way, the change can be developed in some ways. That way, people can just switch their lives to a more developed life for climate change and to help our planet grow as a good way and not destroy our planet. And for me, I feel like sending a message will help so much, because as Zainab said, we need to have a voice and we need to say things that we know that it can happen, and we need to say things that is true and that we need to develop for the planet. So yeah.
Wow, this is impressive. I'm wondering, is everyone in your school like this, or have we picked up the 3 extraordinary kids out of there? No, because I'm really impressed. Are you particularly like active on this, or is it something that you share with many people in your school?
There are some people.
Please, who wants to answer?
There are some people.
Can I go? Can I go? I
Please,
wanna.
you raise your hand. In other words, tell me.
Yeah. So in our school, there are some students who are dedicated into helping the planet, and there are a different set of students who just want to, like, I don't know, they just want to be in the school and not do work and not help the planet. You know, they're just there to be there. And I don't think that's really useful. I don't know why, because I have social media to spread awareness,
Mhm.
and I am in a bunch of different club activities because I want to make a difference. And there are those sets of students who I encourage to join these clubs or these groups that I'm creating to help make the earth a better a place. But it's really hard to do that when they're hating on every move you do, because they're being unencouraging. They're saying, oh, what you're doing is not going to make a difference. They're saying that you're just wasting your time. And I find that as a motivation to keep going, because I believe that one day I will make a difference.
That's
So,
great. So good.
You're already making a difference. That's my only
You are.
friendly correction. All three of you are.
Thank you.
Would you like, Miranda? I mean, we have questions here. I don't know if you have like 5 minutes for questions. One is, how will you inspire your friends and classmates?
Oh.
Lafayette Academy to hear your message, like Miranda was suggesting. Will you probably, I don't know, suggest the school to write a statement, or what are the projects here?
I'll go. So it's kind of complicated, but at the same time, it's easy, because as in middle school, you kind of don't want to be the lame guy or the lame person that wants to make a difference, and then people make fun of you. But at the same time, something that we could do is try to tell our friends and convince people, our friends or in principal, to talk about these things, because I know that my principal is really, really interested and makes a lot of changes and tries to make a lot of difference in our school with all the topics that we're saying today, and how us students need to have a voice to talk to our principal or to our teachers, to maybe talk or make lessons about it, or maybe have some school share outs or school meetings to talk about these things. And I know that my father made a program and an arrangement with a specific person that works for climate change, and talked about a lot of things about it, and
You
how
should have Miranda at your school anyway.
yeah, and how and how the impact on a voice makes a lot of difference, because after that there was a lot of lessons with teachers and a lot of people that were just changing, and there was not a lot of people, but there was a lot of people that were talking to other people about this topic. So I feel like just talking and just trying to tell people what's right and what's wrong convinces them that it's right.
So good.
Can I add on?
Of course.
So I remember last year there was this climate walk where a bunch of students from different schools in New York just got out and participated, and they just spoke out, telling people that this is so important. I feel like if there's ever another one, I feel like our school should definitely participate, maybe just taking a little bit of our time, not even the entire day of school, just half of the day, to just show people we're ready to make this change that should have happened decades ago, that Gen Z is the next voice, that we are going to do something. Would be great just to show our other classmates how passionate we are about this, and that they should also be passionate about it.
Wow.
That's a wonder. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
No,
Gesper.
no,
I was like, yeah, that's a really good idea.
That's an amazing idea. And you guys could become the school strike committee for the Lafayette School. And it sounds like you have a sympathetic principal. So there are a lot of, I don't know if you all are aware, but the New York City Department of Education excused absences from that huge climate march last September. And in specialized specialty schools and private schools, it's more of a case by case, principal by principal question. But if you can get support from your classmates and from parents and from other adults and young people in your lives for it, being at those marches is an experience you will never forget, of a sense of promise and the possibility of moving things forward when we act together. And that would be an amazing way as a young person to move forward on taking action.
excellent. Maybe I can tell you about very quickly about an initiative that is taken at my daughter's school, the Lycée Français in New York, for every kid that is every student in 10th grade has to participate in a program called Be the Change, where in group of 4, you have a weekend or 3 days to create your own startup that has to be mission driven and do good for the environment. So you have to find like a purpose, a name, business model, everything as if you were an entrepreneur, but it has to be for good, for the environment. And I believe that's something that is working really well at school there at the lycée. And maybe that's a good idea to share in other schools here in New York and everywhere. Time is flying, guys. We could say the whole afternoon or evening speaking together. Maybe like one last word for you, to you, Miranda, because really it's a great honor to have you. And then I have a poem for every one of you to read to finish this session about the change that we are going through. And it's a message of hope. So Miranda.
I've been so honored to be here with you guys, and with the people at home listening and watching. I just want to urge everybody listening and watching at home to listen to what these 3 extraordinary young people are saying about how much this world and its health and their own futures, how much all of that means to them, and urge you to take action, join an organization, call a representative, talk to people about the climate crisis. We can do this if we come together and feel ourselves to be together. And there's no better reason to do it than the right that Zainab and Hillary and Gaspar have to a livable future. We can help make that happen. So join us.
Absolutely. Thank you. And to finish with, is this, where is my, yes, here is the little poem that I would love you to read to finish this great discussion and Win Forum 2020. Maybe Gaspar and then Zainab and Hillary, you can read
Right.
your part.
So, okay. So, what if 2020 isn't canceled? What if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw, that it finally forces us to grow. A year that screams so loud, finally awakening us from our ignorance slumber.
Yeah, Zainab.
A year we finally accept the need for change, declare change, work for change, become the change.
A year, we can't hear you, but it says, a year we finally band together instead of pushing each other further apart. And Hillary?
2020 isn't canceled, but rather the most important year of them all.
Thank you. I believe it's a very important moment for us all. I was delighted to be with you. I want to thank Gaspar. I want to thank your mother, Dorothée, who was very instrumental in organizing this session. I want to thank Caroline, who brought me this beautiful poem, and all the WIN Forum tech team behind the screen. You are amazing, and you all three have been amazing. We're very lucky to have you at WIN Forum. Thank you, Miranda. Thank you all. That's the end of WIN Forum 2020. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are filled with energy to be change makers more than ever. And I wish you all the best for this year. That is not canceled, but that is a very, very important year. Au revoir. Merci beaucoup.
Au revoir.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.